Hello and welcome. Thank you all for joining me today. We are going to do a really good and thorough backbending practice today. And I know many of you don't like backbends, and I used to be in that camp as well. I actually work on backbends regularly now. And the real secret to backbending is to do them slowly, thoroughly, and with your awareness wide open. And that's really what we do in yoga practice anyway. And so just using all the skills you already have, we're going to go slowly into a really thorough backbending practice. And you will benefit from this as long as you don't cross over the threshold that your body has set for yourself. And so when you start to feel the discomfort, you don't necessarily just stop. What you do is you go slower, and maybe you need to make a little modification. And all of those little micro decisions while we're moving in yoga is what helps us to progress and helps us to get stronger and more flexible. So let's begin. So we're going to come into our centering position. So whatever that is for you. Cross-legged, maybe kneeling, or of course even seated on the floor with legs outstretched. It's all fine, whatever you need today. And so just feel yourself beginning to arrive, body and mind. Of course, you want to feel your sits bones underneath you, and maybe a little broadening between those sits bones so it feels like you're really anchored in your seated posture, but you want to be able to feel that length in the side body, in the torso as well. And just for a few moments, if you'll close your eyes and just go inward. And just feel the joints stacked on top of each other. And of course, we're thinking about head over heart, heart over pelvis. And with that, just begin lengthening and softening your breath. As you're noticing the breath, you can just slowly make it a little bit longer, a little bit slower. And then also notice the difference here between your inhales and exhales. As you inhale, of course, the body, you feel the chest expanding. You want to feel that. And when you exhale, you feel the compression of the little constriction in the rib cage, maybe in the tummy. So you're opening up when you inhale, and a little bit you'll feel like you're closing when you exhale. Just a few more breaths like that, being aware of the lengthening and softening of your breathing, but also the opening and the compression of your breathing. Opening and lifting on the inhale, a little bit of tightening and compression in the body as you exhale. And then open your eyes and continue those long, slow breaths. We're going to try to do that throughout the practice today. You can bring your arms to the sides of the body. And as you inhale, turn the palms outward and raise the arms up over the head. And reach really high with those finger points. You can separate the fingers. Be here for another breath. The next inhale, you're pressing even more firmly into those sits bones and out through the finger points, and just feel that length just from that inhale and focused lengthening makes in the body. As you exhale, you're releasing arms down. You feel the softening in the shoulders and the elbows, coming all the way around in a big circle. We're going to put our hands right in front of our heart. Namaste. Now, as long as you're comfortable here, you can stay I'm going to shift my position just a little bit. I think I prefer to be kneeling. We're going to be here for just another minute or two, not very long at all. Just make sure you're comfy with this. Just slowly place your fingertips right on top of your shoulders. Elbows are out to the sides. You want to feel what's under you, the sits bones, whether you're on the floor or on a brick like I am. You're really getting long when you inhale. You want to feel the broadening from the breastbone out to the elbows, and you want to feel length from the sits bones to the crown of the head, particularly each and every inhale. So the next time you inhale from here, you just start to look up and just notice the opening in the front body. So right here, maybe you can even draw back just a little bit on those shoulder joints. And there is already the beginnings of a back bend. And then as you exhale, you feel a firming in your navel, in your abdominal core, a little bit of a rounding in the spine with that abdominal contraction. And there's the closing, the compression. Inhale, lengthening and opening in the front body. And exhale, just a little bit of compression here. The front body, of course, is closing. The back body, notice it's opening as you exhale. Front body is closing. Coming back to a seated, or rather a neutral position in the spine. As you inhale, get nice and tall. As you exhale, you're leaning over to one side. You're doing that from that position of length. Inhaling, coming out, getting really long. Exhaling, going over to the other side. And just do that one more time on either side. You're getting long when you inhale. And when you exhale, you're just doing a little side bend from a position of length. Just like that. Just feel the body starting to move and warm up. And then final movement we'll do in this position, nice and tall on the inhale, of course. As you exhale, you're just turning the chest a little over to the right. Elbows are staying the same distance away from each other as you turn. Inhaling back to center, get tall, and exhaling over to the other side. And in these beginning movements, just notice what's happening and how it's making you feel. You're tall at center, and you're exhaling into a twist. And tall at center, exhaling into the twist on the other side. Coming back to center, coming with your arms, or rather your fingertips away from your shoulders. Let's go ahead and come right into a hands and knees position now. Coming onto your mats. You know what to do. Your hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips. And here is your foundational pose as you place your weight where you know how to do. You're placing it right in the base of your fingers and then letting it go a little bit over to the inner hand. Feel yourself getting really long from crown of the head. So you're looking down at your hands. So the crown of the head is what's pointing to the wall in front of you. Your tailbone is pointing to the wall behind you. Just have a few breaths here. When you inhale, you feel a little expansion here. Maybe you can feel the hands press a little more into the floor. The tops of your feet press a little more into the floor. As you exhale, feel the ribs contract a little bit. Tummy contracts, a little tiny pulling in of the tummy. So this is just in tabletop, and then we're going to go right into our cat-cow stretches. So here we go on the inhale, pressing again into the hands, a little more into the inner hands and the tops of the feet. As you inhale, you're bringing the heart upward and forward, but you're also tugging those shoulder blades down a little bit as the tailbone rises. And there you are, actually in a back bend. As you exhale, again, a little pressure into the hands, a little pressure into the tops of your feet as you come into the cat position. So the tummy button is pulling in and the back is rounding. Just like that, roll into your cow position, heart lifts, tailbone lifts. but you also feel your shoulder blades going downward in the back. So that's an important component. Start to feel the back muscles. Here they're stretching. Front body is constricting. And in the cow position, front body is lengthening. Back body is working because your shoulder blades are pulling together a little bit and going down. And just feel the difference. Just a couple more breaths like that. And just thoroughly feel, even in this really simple pose, you're coming into flexion and back bending. Very nice. And releasing. And this time, when you exhale, just sink back into pose of a child. Elbows can touch the floor. And as you inhale, come on back up again. You're pressing, you're rolling onto the hands, rolling with the tops of the feet right back into the starting position. And just do this 2 more times. Exhaling into flexion and inhaling right back again. Exhaling slowly, coming down. Remember, your elbows can touch the floor, hips can touch back towards the heels, release. And inhale, coming back up again. Very lovely. And let's go ahead now and have a little stretch in downward facing dog. Reach your hands forward. Tuck your toes under. As you push the floor away, what you're trying to do is roll as much as you can onto the feet as you lift your knees. So you're rolling from the toes onto the balls of the feet and let your legs get involved with hoisting you up into downward facing dog. Little movement here. So probably this is your first downward facing dog of the day. So go ahead and just pedal out a little bit. You can move as much as you'd like to in this pose. Remember, what you're trying to do always is to make the pose alive for you. And so it's a lovely process of finding your way into each and every pose. After just a few breaths here, let's go ahead and have a stretch. So bring the feet a little closer to the hands, a little wider maybe. I want you to sit right back onto your heels. So if you need to have a little peek here, what I'm doing, I'm putting all the weight into my legs. And very little is in my arms. And if you have a brick, you don't need to have it, but if it feels better, you can put your hands on a brick. Otherwise, you're just on the floor, it's fine. And you want to feel from the hips all the way into your heels, you want to feel a little bit of weight there. And notice when your legs take over that you can release the upper body a little bit more. Really feel that. So maybe you can just walk your fingertips a little further away. Now, if that causes discomfort, of course, you don't want to do that. I want you to try to find your way into a lovely stretch for the spine. From finger point all the way back to your arms, all the way down your spine is really long. Very nice. And bend the knees. Let's go ahead and try to come back to that classic downward facing dog. Just enjoy whatever little stretch your body can manage right now. And bend the knees. And put the knees to the floor, and let's all come to a child's pose. One fist on top of the other. Release, nice long slow breathing. Just let the back really release here. And coming back. Coming into your neutral tabletop position. Just a little challenge pose now for just to really ramp up the warmth and ramp up our strength. As you inhale, bring the right leg back, press out through the heel. Feel the strength from the hip all the way back towards the lengthening towards the right foot. All that is well, you're reaching forward with the left arm. Feel the length, but also feel the strength it's taking just to hold yourself up in this position. So your back gluteal muscles working really, really hard. Long, slow breaths. And you know when you need to release it, you want to hold it for several breaths, but when you need to release it, all you need to do is exhale it away. Any little movement in between sides is absolutely fine. And then let's come on over to the other side. So you're going to inhale the left leg back, press out through the heel, and feel the stability and strength in that before you inhale the right arm up. Little element of balance when you first come up. So you're thinking length, of course. Head is looking right down at the mat. And feel that lovely length and feel the strength required to hold yourself in this position. Long, slow breaths, and try to hold it for several breaths, but when you need to let it go, you just release the pose. Little movement here. And come right back down now. Forearms to the floor. Let's just have a little go at dolphin pose. All it is downward facing dog on our forearms. Flexing the toes under, coming into dolphin pose. What's really important here is your neck feels relaxed, so you're not using your neck muscles. And just start to work out, what do you need right now in this pose to feel a little more comfortable, or maybe even to get a little more out of it. So feel maybe pressing into the forearms a little more firmly, and maybe even guiding your weight a little more back towards the balls of the feet, which requires pushing the floor away a little bit and releasing the head and neck. So you're looking right back at your own legs. And slowly let the knees come to the floor. And then stretch your arms out. And we're coming into a half downward facing dog. Some people call this swan's pose, but whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. You're going to try to get your forehead to the floor. Hips can stay high and the stretch is happening. You can feel it sloping right off your tailbone, up your back, in your armpits maybe, in your front chest, all the way there and down your arms. Long, slow breaths. Very nice. And then let's go ahead and come on back. And we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're going to come to standing and continue our warm up with just a little version of Surya Namaskar. So let's all come to standing now. So we're all to standing now. So just very carefully now, with your full awareness, get yourself into your mountain pose. Just arrange your body as you know how to do. The little steps go quicker and quicker the more you practice, so that you can feel the weight pressing into your feet. All 10 toes are pointing forward, so have a little look, make sure that's happening. Feel the strength in your legs and the length in your torso. Then you can feel a little lift in your heart. Tailbones pointing down between your heels. And then keeping all of this, just have a few breathing vinyasas. You want to turn the palms out. And then you can inhale, feeling the broadness in your chest as you inhale up. Coming to your fullest length, and then you can exhale and breathe down. Just a couple more times like that. As you inhale, reach up. And as you exhale, breathe down. And last one, pressing into the feet as you breathe up. Finding full spinal extension at the top, and then as you exhale, you just release the arms down. And then from this position, just to be ensure that our bodies are ready to do the work that we're about to ask it, we're going to just do a different little breathing vinyasa. So we've all done it before. As you inhale, you're just breathing the arms straight up. And as you exhale, you're sinking down, bending the knees. As you inhale, breathe up. And as you exhale, release the arms. And then again, as you inhale, breathe up. And this time, a little bend in the knees. You're going to actually, on the exhale, also do a twist. You turn from the navel up to the right. Arms are front to back as best you can. You can look back at your back arm if you're able to do that. And then you're inhaling, coming back to center. You're exhaling over to the other side. Just doing it so thoroughly and carefully. You don't miss anything in the way of sensation. Inhaling back up. Exhaling back, arms back to the sides of the body. Now just a little bit quicker, a couple more sequences. As you inhale, you're breathing up. Exhaling into your twist to the right, arms front to back. Inhaling up over your head and exhaling over to the left. A little bend in the knees, arms front to back. Inhaling up and exhaling, releasing the arms to the sides of the body. Last time, as you inhale, breathe up, find length. As you exhale, you're breathing over to the right into a twist. And you're inhaling, breathing up to a full spinal extension. Exhaling over to the left. And inhaling back to center. And then it's on the exhale that you can release. And so if you aren't standing at the top of the mat, if you would come there now, right to the top of the mat. Feet are about sits bone distance apart, hands to the heart. And we'll just have a very simple little Surya Namaskar on either side. And as you exhale, hands come right down the midline of the body, palms turn out. Inhaling, reaching the arms up into your spinal extension, and exhaling, swan diving to the floor. Fingertips touching the floor, you rise up in the heart. Straighten the thighs as much as you are able to do. As you exhale, a little bend in the knee, lining up fingers and toes. Right leg steps back, and here you are in your high lunge. If all is well in your high lunge, you're just going to inhale into a twist, a little more weight into the left hand. Breathe into your twist. And exhale, release. On the next exhale, we're going to come right into a downward facing dog. And on the inhale, just carefully come into your plank pose, really strong in the arms, in the core, in the thighs. As you exhale, knees to the floor. And then when you inhale, you can come forward with the hips, press into the arms, and raise your sternum up into your upward facing dog. And as you exhale, really firm abdominal core work as you pull back into your downward facing dog. Inhaling, right leg back, and exhaling, stepping through if you're able to do that. Otherwise, just place your leg there. And from here, as you exhale, let's come into a pyramid pose. Remember, you can always step the back leg forward just a little bit and just breathe into your pyramid pose. Nice long slow breaths. Just on one breath though, as you inhale, a little play in both knees. Feel the ball of the back foot as you press into that to step forward into your forward bend. So chest is already rising up. As you exhale, you're going to release a little more fully
into your forward bend. A little play in the knees. As you inhale, you come down just a little more for that momentum. So you can inhale, sweep up, and exhale, hands back to the heart. Just have a breath or two here. And let's go right on over to the other side so that on your next exhale, those folded hands come right down the body. Palms turn outward. You inhale, breathe up. Feel the spinal extension. As you exhale, gracefully coming to the floor with control with both hands, touching somewhere. Remember, you can bend your knees as much as you need to help that to happen. As you inhale, a little rise in the heart, maybe straightening the legs just a little bit. As you exhale, a little bend in the knees, line up fingers and toes, step back with the left leg. And just take that moment to form your high lunge. And then you can lean into the left arm, just a hand, just a little bit, so you can rise up on the inhale with the right arm into your twist. And then as you exhale, coming back down again with that right hand into the high lunge. Next exhale, into your downward facing dog. Inhale, carefully coming into your plank pose. Feel the strength in your arms. Feel the core working. Feel the thighs working. Come into your plank pose, nice and fully. And as you exhale next, knees to the floor. Feel yourself just a little bit, hips coming forward so you can press into the arms, into the hands. Raise your heart. Look up just a little bit. Shoulder blades trying to come back together behind you. Exhaling, feeling the firmness in the core as you guide yourself back to downward facing dog. And this time as you inhale, the left leg rises up. And as you exhale, it sweeps forward. Remember, if you only get to here, simple, just place your foot where it needs to be for your high lunge. And in your high lunge, you're going to shift a little bit so you can come into pyramid pose as you exhale right into pyramid. As you inhale, little play in the front knee, back knee follows suit as you look forward. You can press into the ball of the back foot and step into your high lunge. As you exhale, you're releasing into as full of a forward bend as you can. And then a little weight into those heels, a little bend in the knees so that you can come right up on the inhale, back into extended mountain. And then exhale, hands to the heart. And just lower your eyes here. And just have a couple of breaths. And feel yourself smoothing the breath out. So if it's become jagged with your work, just smooth it out. And we come back now for the final bit of the practice, back to the floor again. Okay, so we're all on the floor now, ready to come into downward facing dog. Pushing right back into your downward facing dog and just having a lovely little stretch here. Nice, long, slow breaths. And bending your knees. And just easing yourself back to your tabletop position. So the hands go under the shoulders. So we're just going to go through a little sequence now, nice and slowly, making sure everybody has every movement. So from here, on your next inhale, you're going to rise the heart up. Tailbone rises up as well, and the shoulder blades just tug down a little bit towards your back pockets as you exhale. Rounding in the back with a nice progressive abdominal contraction. You're pushing into the tops of the feet and the roots of your fingers. And inhale, rolling into the cow position. And exhaling. Nice firm tummy as you round the spine. Try to get all you can out of that movement. And inhaling back into the cow position. And exhaling right back into the cat position. Nice and easy. As you inhale next, we're just going to slowly come back into a neutral tabletop position. On the exhale, you're going to lower your elbows to the floor. Flexing the toes under, you're going to come into a dolphin pose. That's just downward facing dog on your forearms. And remember just to find what you need to be strong in the foundation through the balls of the feet and through your forearms, but also release any pressure in your neck. And we're just holding this for 3 breaths. And slowly now, as you exhale, you're releasing knees to the floor. And then inhale and stretch out into your swan pose or half downward facing dog. Now, as you reach out, remember you can bend the elbows and let the elbows touch the floor and rest the forehead on the floor if it goes there for 3 breaths. Long, slow breaths. And then we're coming up on the inhale. We're going to power right up into a forearm plank. So push your elbows and forearms on the floor. One foot goes back and then the other. And get yourself into the strongest forearm plank you can manage. So you don't want your bums way up in the air. You want to come down. It gets more challenging that way. But you want to be long like a plank. So feel the firmness as you press your forearms into the floor. You're long from crown of the head back to those heels. And you hold for a couple more breaths. Nice, long, slow breaths, but the core is really pulling in and holding you firmly. And then slowly on your next exhale, let the knees touch the floor. Come on down to your tummies. And if you can, you're going to try to bring your hands right back now, really far. If you can, but lower than your shoulders, all the way back towards your chest. And let the legs be nice and long. We're going to come into a little version of cobra pose from here. So the elbows are pointing straight up towards the ceiling. And as you inhale, you're tractioning back with those fingers. You're not pressing down. But you want to try to think of your body like a banana. It gets really long before you start to bend upwards. I want you to think at the crown of the head, pointing right where the wall and the ceiling come together. And exhale, release. As you inhale, you're tractioning back with those finger points and getting long before you come into the banana shape. And then release. One more time as you inhale. You're reaching long first. And then let the crown of the head point right between the wall and the ceiling. And then let's release. And just be here for just a moment in the prone position. Nice, long, slow breaths. And then let's go ahead and come up. We're going to come into a Sphinx pose, so you have to come back onto your forearms. And then when you get there, just go ahead and sashay those hips back and forth a little bit to get your low back nice and used to this position. And then you want to feel the firmness, the foundation in your forearms. You want to feel length in your low back coming out, but also length all the way through the mid back. And again, get the idea that your body's getting longer and that maybe you can visualize the crown of your head pointing right upward in the little corner, the little angle where the wall and the ceiling meet. Traction back just a little bit with those arms and maybe slightly outward. Just have 2 more breaths here. And let's go ahead and release down. And just allow the body to be in this prone position for a couple of breaths. Well, let that low back release a little bit. We're going to come into another back bend. I want you to choose carefully which one you want. All of us are either going to do locust pose or we're going to do bow pose. And I'll show you both of them. We're going to do locust first. And just, you can watch if you'd like and then decide which one you want to do. With locust pose, you can choose from two versions. So you can either have your arms outstretched or rather extended back. And on the inhale, you're going to get the arms really long. And as you open the front of the body, more and more you're thinking length before you think banana shape. You might be able to raise the arms up and raise the legs up. And you need to hold this for 3 breaths. If that becomes a little difficult, you can bend your fingers. Let the fingers point back towards your toes. You can bend the elbows a little bit and let your finger points be on the floor. So you've got a little bit of anchoring here with your fingers. You can do the exact same thing with the finger points anchored downward. 3 breaths. So there's the Shalabhasana or the locust pose. If you choose bow pose, you need to be able to bend the knees and clasp the very fronts of those ankles. And your pose would be, as you inhale, you're lifting the heart, but pressing the tops of the ankles into your hands and having 3 breaths there. So, hopefully you haven't been doing all those poses, so you're choosing now. We're all going to do either locust pose or we're going to do bow pose. So whichever one you choose, make sure if you're not able to clasp comfortably, your pose will be one of those versions of locust pose. So as you're ready, we're coming in now, inhaling into either locust pose or bow pose. Nice, long, slow breaths, and just have 2 more breaths. And slowly releasing down. And from here, after a couple breaths in the prone position, we will need a pose of a child. So go ahead and lift yourself up just long enough to set your hips back towards your heels. Make 2 little fists here. And let's have this version, even if you know you can put your forehead on the floor. Let's go ahead and have the version with double fists, forehead resting on those fists. And just have a few long, slow breaths. And lovely. And now let's go ahead and come up to a kneeling position. And our final back bend is going to be camel pose. And so in camel pose, you need to come up to a high kneeling position. You want the thighs a little bit separated, but not wide. The knees should not be wider than the hips. If you look down, knees and thighs are just parallel with each other and evened up in alignment with the hips. So first version, you can flex your toes under. If that is not comfortable, you can keep your feet on the floor. You won't get as much of a back bend, but that's okay. So just see what feels okay with your knees. You want to take your hands and place them right in the small of your back, finger points pointing upward. So it's like a little brace for your back. And pressing gently now, maybe into the knees, into the curled under toes. You want to find length first in the back. So you're just letting yourself get longer, maybe pushing upward a little bit to help with those hands. And that might be as far as you want to go. The idea is to get real length through the front of the body, including the breastbone and maybe the shoulder bones where the shoulders and arms come together
can roll back and you can get nice and broad in the collarbones, and that really might be a strong enough pose, and actually it feels like it is for me today. But for those of you who want to go further, I'll demonstrate. You can kind of swim back and put your hands towards your heels. Now, as you see, I lean back, and when you lean back, you're taking away the back bend. And so if you do that automatically, it's actually a little bit too strong of a version for you. So if you can't keep your thighs parallel with your hands back onto the heels, then you need to just stay in the version where you're upright. It's fine. And slowly from here, we all will need another another child's pose. So you want to come back to the vertical position first and slowly let yourself come into pose of a child. Nice and slowly for 3 breaths. And then let's all come out. And so we're going to do that sequence again. You've all now know what you're doing. I'm going to talk you right through it. You'll be fine. Remember, when you get into the back bends a little more, you'll need to choose between doing locust pose or bow pose. You will not do both, okay? So you'll just do one or the other when we get to that point. So coming back into tabletop position, just feel the pose with your awareness first. You know what to do. Have your hand placement correctly. A little bit of tone in your arms. Neutral tabletop, looking down at the hands, and then inhaling, raising the heart, raising the tailbone. You feel a little tugging back in your shoulder blades. As you exhale, you feel that rounding in the spine as the navel tries to lift closer to the spine. Inhaling into the cow position. And exhaling into the cat position. Just feel everything as you inhale one more time. Lifting the heart, lifting the tailbone. And as you exhale, rounding in the back, feeling that lift right through the abdominal core. And then you're inhaling just a neutral tabletop. And you're exhaling onto the forearms. Tucking the toes under, and then you're inhaling into dolphin pose, and you're holding this for 3 breaths. Remember to find your point of comfort as much as possible in the pose and breathing. And on your next exhale, knees come to the floor. And on the inhale, you attempt to stretch out into swan's pose or half downward facing dog for 3 breaths. Long, slow, just enjoy this. And just feel your body leaning into each pose. And then from here, that nice relaxed position, we're going to come into a position of strength in forearm plank. So the forearms come to the floor, parallel with each other. One leg at a time goes back. And you hold this pose for 3 breaths. Let your neck be neutral. You're really strong, pressing into the forearms. Really strong in the thighs and in the core for 2 more breaths. And then on your next exhale, knees come to the floor. Tummy comes to the floor. Chest comes to the floor. And you lie all the way into the prone position. Let your legs be long. Just guide your fingertips back as low as they can, past the shoulders if possible, elbows pointing right up to the ceiling. As you inhale, you're tractioning back with those fingers and lifting the heart. And feeling the length is most important. You feel the length before the back bend, and then as you exhale, you're releasing back down. As you inhale, you're lifting the heart, a little tractioning back with the elbows and the hands. And as you exhale, you're releasing. And one more time, inhaling, feeling the length in the front of the body. And then exhale, releasing.
Lovely. And relax for just a breath or two. And now we're going to go into Sphinx pose, pressing into the hands, lifting up into a forearm position where you can really maybe sway your hips back and forth. But what you want to feel is length. It's as if the spine is trying to come out of the pelvic bowl. So feel that lengthening. You want to make sure the shoulders aren't collapsed. So that there is a tendency to do that. So you want to feel the collarbones broad. Let those shoulder and arm bone junction, let that go back. And so the heart can shine forward here. And just hold for 2 more breaths. And you want the crown of the head pointing up right where the wall and the ceiling comes together. Nice broad collarbones. And slowly let's release back to the floor again. And just have a breath or 2 in that prone position. Let the back recover slightly. And then you're choosing between a version of locust pose. So remember with that is either reaching back or fingertips to the floor. Or you're going to do bow pose. And either one is fine. Just really, you have already decided which one you're going to do, and that's great. So on the next inhale, let's come into your version, either Shalabhasana or bow pose. And we're going to try to hold this for 3 breaths, whichever one you choose. And slowly on the exhale, release. Just have a couple breaths in the prone position before you shift into pose of a child. Remember, with these strong back bends, you want to keep your double fists to rest your forehead on. And when you get into your pose of a child, just have 3 long, slow breaths. And then we're going to slowly come out into the kneeling position so we can complete the back bends with camel pose. Coming into the high kneeling position, flexing your toes under if you're able to do that. Placing your hands, finger points up on the small of your back. And just broaden out the collarbones. And let those elbows come closer together behind you and find length. And after what you've done, this might be enough. It's up to you if you want to go a little further. You can breathe into the pose a little more right from this position. Or you can swim your hands back towards your heels. Whichever version you prefer. And just hold for another breath wherever you are. And slowly coming back on an exhale into the vertical position. And let's go ahead and just have one more pose of a child. Sinking hips back towards the heels. Fists, double fists is what is the little pillow for your forehead. And after you've had a couple of breaths in this final pose of a child, would you like to put your fist, or rather one hand on top of the other and come a little lower? It's up to you. And after a couple breaths there, if you'd like, you can put forehead to the floor. And cocoon those arms right back behind, cocooning your thighs. Whichever version is absolutely fine. Nice long slow breaths. And then we're going to slowly come on out of pose of a child, pressing fingertips to the floor, rising ourselves up into a little more of a vertical position in our torso. And then let's slowly come into a reclining position, this time face up, of course, stretching out, easing yourself down to your mat. So once you get there, you might want to have a full frontal stretch. And bringing your arms alongside the torso when you're ready, bending the knees. And from here, just exhale, the right knee comes closer into the body, interlock the hands just above that right shin and stretch the left leg out if you're able to do that. Just have a few long, slow breaths here. As you exhale, you're bringing that right thigh into the body and you're letting it go away a little bit as you inhale. A few breaths like that. And as you're breathing and moving like this, just notice the effect it's having on your low back. And after maybe 3 to 5 breathing repetitions, you'll probably want to change legs and place the right sole of the foot on the floor when you do that. And then the left knee comes closer into the body. And then you can stretch out with the left leg. And then just have a few breaths where you're really focusing on the breathing and on the sensations. And again, after those 3 to 5 repetitions, you can place the left sole of the foot on the floor, and the right again. Bring both knees closer into the body and just cocoon yourself. Just bring your arms up and loosely interlock your hands. You can have a little separation in those thighs and just hold yourself in this position. Maybe a tiny bit of swaying or rocking side to side. Just for a couple of breaths. And then place one hand on top of each knee and encourage on an exhale the thighs to come closer into the body. And as you inhale, let them come away. Just a couple more breaths like that. It's a very familiar movement to you, so just use it to your best advantage as you inhale, creating space. As you exhale, just snug those thighs closer in towards the body. And then slowly with control on an exhale, we're going to bring those feet back to the floor again. You can bring the arms out to shoulder height and hook that right ankle right over that left knee and just cross over. As you exhale, let those knees go over towards the right, nice and easy, into a bit of a twist and stretch here. You can turn your head in whatever direction, either towards your knees or away from your knees, whatever feels best right now. And you want at least 3 long, slow breaths in that position. And once you've had those long, slow breaths, it's on an exhale that you're going to rise back up again. And you're going to uncross when you get there, right sole of the foot to the floor. And then you're going to recross left ankle over the right knee. As you're ready, on the exhale, this time you're going to send those knees over to the left. And just when you get to that expression of the pose where you know it's the fullest expression for yourself, you're going to have 3 long, slow breaths. And just feel that lovely side stretch now. Of course, now it's in the right side body. And then as you exhale, you're coming back to the starting position. Uncross. Let's all have happy baby before we come into Shavasana. So that is, you're bringing the thighs close into the body. There's a separation there. And then from this position, the feet just go up towards the ceiling. Now, if you're really feeling like, oh, I've had enough, you can loosely interlock your hands behind your knees and just create a little hammock there. So it's nice and loose, happy baby. The feet are flexed, pointing up towards the ceiling. If you'd like to be a little stronger in the pose, you can clasp around the outside of your ankles, and you're attempting to bring those knees closer down towards the floor with each and every exhale. And the feet are flexed still and pointing up towards the ceiling. And of course, the final version and the toughest version would be to interlock your hand, or rather to clasp the little toe side of your hand, stirrup style. So choose the version that really suits you best right now, and just have a few breaths in your happy baby. Remember, you can move around a little bit in the pose if you'd like. So when you feel like you've had enough and you feel complete with that, we're going to slowly make our way into the final relaxation, and just give yourself some time to move into Shavasana now. And remember, you want to be warm enough, so once you start to cool down, you'll feel it pretty quickly. So if you have taken a layer off like I have, you might want to put it back on again. And just let your body release into that Shavasana position. Nice, long, slow breaths. Feel the heaviness in the body. Remember, it's just a surrender. You're not trying to make anything particular happen. You're just letting go as much as you can. So just notice whatever comes to your awareness as you begin to settle more and more on the floor. You might notice some tightness in the body. And if you do, you can mindfully release that with your awareness. The easiest way to do it is to inhale and really clench even more. And then on the exhale, you might be able to release it a little better. So just go through the body anytime anything presents itself and you feel like it's resistance or tension, you can release it in that way. And as you continue to surrender your weight to the floor, turn your awareness now into slowing down the breath. And let's just do that mindfully for just a few breaths. So initially, if you can switch your exhales to be a little bit longer than your inhales, you will come to more of a point of relaxation. So a lot of you, it depends on what time of the day you're doing this. If you are doing it later in the day, it's great to try to have a 4-count inhale and up to an 8-count exhale. If it's earlier in the day for you, you might want to just have your breaths be really mindfully long and slow. So again, choose your pranayama, your breathing that works best for you right now. And we'll just have a few breaths like this. And then you'll want to come to a point where you release any control of your breathing at all and just allow the breath to breathe naturally and spontaneously. Just releasing
the weight of your body as much as you can into the floor. Just letting your breath do whatever it would like to do. And there's no chime today, so well, you just slowly, if you'd like to remain in Shavasana for a while longer, of course you can. If you would like to close with me, you'll need to come to a seated position nice and slowly now, coming out of your Shavasana if you choose to do that. So for those of you who have come along with me and decided to close with me, you're in your seated posture. You've come right back slowly into a little more focus now. And your hands come to the heart. Little slight bow. Namaste. Thank you all.